Good morning. Thank you all for coming. I'm Mary Ann Zook, the president of Revere America. I'd just like to take this moment to introduce two other members of the Revere America team who are also here this morning. We have Chris Larson, who is our political director, and we have James Wooten, who is our policy advisor. Revere America was born out of a very successful political committee called Americans for Responsible Healthcare. That committee was one of the first independent advertisers to support Scott Brown. With the passage of Obamacare, Revere America was created to continue the fight against government overreach and to support the repeal and replacement of Obamacare. Now I would like to introduce the chairman of Revere America, former three-term governor of New York, Governor Pataki.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary Ann, and thank you for being here this morning. And as Mary Ann indicated, Revere America grew out of Americans for Responsible Healthcare. Back earlier in the year when the Senate race was being held in Massachusetts, some individuals got upset about the fact that Congress looked like it was looking to ram through Obamacare against the wishes of the American people. And Americans for Responsible Healthcare got involved very early supporting Scott Brown in his race for that Senate seat. As everyone knows, Scott Brown won. And I think that we were not alone. I think the American people understood that when Teddy Kennedy's Senate seat went to a Republican, it meant that there was enormous opposition to a government takeover of health care in the United States and that it probably would be derailed. Well, you saw what happened. The Pelosi House and the Reid Senate rammed it through anyway against the wishes of the American people, and President Obama signed it into law. And we were told that, well, you might not know what's in it. Once we pass it, you can learn about it. And they have passed it, and we have learned about it. And to this day, a clear majority of the American people understand that Obamacare not only represents an overreaching by government, it is something that's going to increase deficits. It's going to make health care accessibility more difficult. It's going to increase the cost of health care for Americans, and it does not achieve what it was marketed as achieving when it was first proposed in Congress. So Revere America grew out of that effort. And Revere America is the name has two meanings. One is, as all Americans do, we love this country. We revere this country and the freedoms that it has represented for so many generations of people from around the globe. And the second is it reflects back to Paul Revere, who 235 years ago went on his ride when American freedom was in danger. American freedom is in danger again today. This time it's not at the end of a musket carried by a soldier. It's endangered by politicians in Washington ramming through policies that overreach, that expand government power, and that dictate too many aspects of the American people's lives to every single individual and family across this country. So we created Revere America, dedicated to a mission of repealing Obamacare and replacing it with good reforms that would, in fact, reduce health care costs, expand accessibility, and empower the American people with better health care choices than they have today. We started out looking at the grassroots to go around the country and get 1 million signatures of Americans committed to working with us to repeal and replace Obamacare. I'm pleased to report that as of today, we are approaching 500,000. We are getting in the neighborhood of 20,000 signatures a day. We are very confident we will have more than 1 million Americans who have signed up to join with us in repealing and replacing Obamacare by October 1st. And we intend now not just to work to educate the American people as to the bad parts of Obamacare, but also to impact the makeup of Congress come this November. Let me stress, Revere America is not a partisan organization. We are a policy organization, looking for policies that believe in limited government, free markets, and empowering the American people with the ability to make choices for themselves, as opposed to empowering politicians with the ability to impose those decisions on the American people. We are a 501c4. We have been involved in issue advocacy. We will continue to be involved in issue advocacy, but we also now have the legal right to be engaged in express advocacy during the course of the upcoming political races. And we intend to do that in two ways. One is to look to those million-plus people who have signed on, agreeing with us to repeal and replace Obamacare, to encourage them to get involved in congressional and Senate races in their district to help hold people accountable for their votes. We are going to be sending out, probably they'll be out this week, cards asking every single person running for Congress this year if they will have worked with us to repeal and replace Obamacare. We intend to support those who will. We intend to oppose those who won't. As I said, we're going to now begin a process of direct advocacy. We will be involved in at least a dozen House races. We will be spending in the seven-figure amount on express advocacy, and we expect to begin that sometime next week. And we do have a pilot ad that we will be running in many of these House races. And at this point, I think it's appropriate, Kim, if we could just show to the people here and to the media what those ads will be. It's going to be silent.
Your congressman voted for Obamacare, government-run health care. It's a bad plan. Government bureaucrats will benefit. Seniors will get hurt. Costs will go up. Care will go down. Longer waits in doctor's offices, and your right to pick your own physician taken away. It's a plan we didn't want and don't need, but he voted for it anyway. Defeat your congressman. Revere America is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Obviously, we will target it to the specific district, but we think it's a powerful message, and we think it's an appropriate message because in virtually every one of those districts, members of Congress voted for Obamacare against the wishes of the people in that district. You've probably seen that those who want to try to re-educate the American people are going to be spending millions of dollars claiming that Obamacare is a good thing. Senator Daschle is leading one of those efforts, and we do not intend to sit back and allow the playing field to only have one side. It's a bad law. We know it's a bad law. The American people know it's a bad law, and we're going to remind them of how their congressmember voted. So at this point, I think unless there's anything else, we'd be happy to open it up to questions. Let me just thank some of the grassroots groups who are here today. We appreciate your coming this morning, and ultimately, it depends on who comes out to vote November 2nd, and that grassroots energy is what we need to win policy majorities come this November. Thank you. Questions from the press? Yes.
Any specific numbers that you'll be targeting this cycle?
Yes, we have been looking at races, and we have at least a dozen that we believe we will be involved in, but at this point, we're not going to be releasing those particular districts. Yes?
Can you talk a little bit about the repeal effort and how you see that going, after the election next year?
Yeah, and I think that's important that it's not just between now and November 2nd, but after the election as well, because we want to see policy majorities. And obviously, to repeal a law, you have three possibilities. One is you can have policy majorities with 2/3 in both houses. I'm a realist. You don't govern the state of New York for 12 years without being realistic. I think that's very unlikely. The second is if you have policy majorities in Congress, you have a president who takes a look and understands that the American people have rejected this law and is willing to work with Congress to repeal it and replace it with reforms that will work. The third is if you have a policy majority in one house, that one house will be able to block certain implementation requirements. As you know, the law is phased in over a number of years, and to the extent that a policy majority has the ability to prevent that from happening, it will require, in a bipartisan way, people to sit down and renegotiate and come up with true reform as opposed to what we currently have in law. In addition, there are a lot of lawsuits out there. Attorney General McCollum in Florida has won on behalf of Florida and other states, and Revere America will be involved in a lawsuit being brought by the Lieutenant Governor of Missouri, which is very interesting because it's not government versus government. It's based on some of the corrupt deals in this bill. In this case, the fact that if you're a senior citizen on Medicare Advantage, you will lose in the overwhelming number of cases that ability to have Medicare Advantage unless you live in the state of Florida, because they made a corrupt deal for a Florida vote so that Florida seniors are exempt. And we believe that is an unconstitutional denial of equal protection. So you have the policy argument, you have the legal argument, and you have the political fight aimed at achieving policy majorities that will overturn Obamacare. And we're hopeful that with the continued understanding and commitment of the American people at the grassroots that we'll be able to repeal and replace Obamacare.